Dear Mr. President, authorities, friends, we open the 37th edition of the Meeting for Friendship Amongst Peoples. Dear President, thank you very much. I think it is a duty to thank you because it is a great honor to host you here. We thank you for accepting to visit us, and you have accepted to open this meeting with this conference with the title, Our Republic is 70 years old. But before listening to your words, I have the great honor to read the message sent by Pope Francis to open these ceremonies. So please allow me to read it, Mr. President. And the Holy Father sent a message to the Bishop of Rimini. So, Your Excellency, I am glad to send you, the organizers, the volunteers, and all participants of the 37th edition of the Meeting for Friendship Amongst Peoples, the warmest greetings of the Holy Father Pope Francis, together with my personal best wishes for this remarkable event. The author is Cardinal Parolin. The title selected for this year's meeting, You Are a Good for Me, is a courageous one. Indeed, it takes courage to state the above, while so many aspects of the surrounding world seem to go in the opposite direction. Oftentimes, the temptation to restrict ourselves to the limited horizon of our personal interest prevails, so that the others become unnecessary or, even worse, an annoyance or hindrance. Yet, this is not consistent with our nature. As early as childhood, we discover the beauty of the link between human beings and learn to meet the others by acknowledging and respecting them as brothers and interlocutors, as they are the children of our common Father in heaven. On the contrary, individualism sets the distance between people, emphasizes their flaws and limits, and undermines our wish and ability to live together, where each of us can be free and happy together with the others, and be enriched by their diversity. Faced with threats to peace and security of both peoples and nations, we are called upon to acknowledge that our existential insecurity is what makes us most afraid of others, as if they were rivals depriving us of our vital space and going beyond the boundaries we have built. Faced with the epochal change affecting us all, who can reasonably believe to redeem oneself out of one's own strength alone? Presumptuousness is the very foundation of any conflict between men. Following the example of the Lord Jesus, Christians are always open towards the others, whoever they are, as they think that nobody is lost forever. The Gospel provides us with an evocative image of this attitude. The prodigal son, pasturing the swine, and his father looking from his terrace every evening to check if he's coming home, and hoping so despite everything and everyone. The world would change immensely if this unlimited hope became the lens through which men look at themselves. Both the tax collector Zacchaeus and the good thief on the cross were considered by Jesus as creatures of God, in need of his salvific embrace, and even Judas heard Jesus calling him friend in the very moment of delivering him to his opponents. There is one word we must endlessly repeat and above all put in practice: dialogue. If we do that, we will find out that opening ourselves to the others does not make us poorer, but richer instead, as it enables us to understand the other's truth, the importance of their experience and the background of their words, even when they hide behind behaviors and choices we disagree with. A real encounter implies having a clear identity and at the same time the willingness to put ourselves in the shoes of the others, to dig below the surface and grasp what troubles their heart and what they're truly looking for. This is the way to start the dialogue making us progress towards new understandings, enriching us all. This is the challenge that lies ahead of all men of goodwill. Several upheavals we're often powerless witnesses to are, in fact, a mysterious invitation to gain back the foundations of communion between men for a new beginning. Against this background, what contribution can we make as Christ's disciples? Our task coincides with the mission God has chosen us for. It is the proclamation of the gospel, which today more than ever finds expression in going forth to bind the wounds of humanity with the powerful yet simple presence of Jesus and his mercy that consoles and encourages. This is the hope of the Holy Father, who encourages the meeting's participants to pay the utmost attention in bearing their personal creative witness, aware of the fact that it is not the strength of our tools that attracts, conquers, and loosens our chains, but rather the tenacious gentleness of the merciful love of the Father we can all draw from, the source of grace provided by God in the sacraments, especially the Holy Communion and the penance, to then donate love to our brothers. He urges us to carry on our commitment to be close to the others and do our best to serve them with joy, following Father Giussani's teaching. The look of the Christians resonate with a passion that makes them capable to glorify all the good there is in anything they encounter, as this good makes them realize they are part of the greater picture that will be fulfilled in eternity and has been revealed to us in Christ. With these feelings, the Holy Father invokes the light of the Holy Spirit on Your Excellency, the organizers, the participants, and the many volunteers of the Meeting for Friendship Amongst Peoples for a fruitful experience of faith and fraternal communion. His Holiness asks everybody to pray for his ministry and gives wholeheartedly his apostolic blessing. May I also wish Your Excellency all the best for the meeting and send you my fondest regards. Most devoted to the Lord, Pietro Cardinal Parolin, Secretary of State. This round of applause accompanies our personal thanks as individuals and as meetings organizers and as participants. So we thank His Holy Father, who once again wanted to tell us which is the way to go, because his message expresses worries, but also encouraging words. And I think that we will all keep these words in mind and in our hearts. And we really want to share this year's title, You Are Good For Me. And His Holy Father is really with us in this sense, because this title, You Are Good For Me, contains the idea topic that is at the very origin of the meeting. I think that we may consider this title as a symbol for our meeting. And this is something that we have put into practice over the years. This is something we have experienced personally, because over the years we have seen that really the others are good for us. We have seen and experienced to what extent dialogue and people from different backgrounds and cultures can be an enrichment. And I want to quote Pope Francis: they can really generate that social friendship, as he said, it is made of forgiveness and gratuitousness. And the Pope recently talked about this in one of his speeches. And Mr. President, you had the chance to meet some of our guests, and you saw to what extent everybody is really eager to get to know the others, to encounter other people, because we all deeply think that this is the way for the future, to grow together as individuals. And I think that at the very origin of these stories, friendships, ways shared with other people in spite of the differences and also of the obstacles, well, there is a certainty encouraging us, and that certainty is the one from which the meeting stems from, because every person has a value, and the very same existence of people give value to the people. The fact of being there, the fact of being eager to encounter the others, the existence of the heart of a person is what gives that person value. And this is something that applies not only to personal relations. I think that this can lay the foundations of peaceful cohabitation. When talking about democracy, at the beginning of the 60s, well, Don Giussani already talked about the affirmation and assertion of people as beings. And I think that these are the building blocks of our being together. This is the only way to walk ways together, to build up ways together, and this is the secret of diversity. We really pay the utmost attention to this diversity. That is why we really want that our society, our country, our Europe will become more and more a place where freedom, relations, and dialogue can be the best way to build experiences and ways together. And as you also always remind us, I also want to remember the referendum of 46. We're celebrating the 2nd of June. You said, Mr. President, that this is the celebration of the freedom of choice. And we do really share these words because we think it's important to underscore the importance of the freedom of every man and woman as an indispensable good that is worth committing and spending our lives. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for being here with us. And now, Professor Vittadini, the President of the Foundation for Subsidiarity, together with Mr. Violante and Bernardini, great supporters of this exhibition on our Republic, which is 70 years old, is going to introduce to us this exhibition that is there to be visited by all of us during the meeting.
This year is the 70th anniversary of the Italian Republic. With the referendum of the 2nd of June 1946, the Italians were called upon to freely decide about their own political and institutional future. They chose the Republic rather than the monarchy, and they elected the Constituent Assembly to draw up the new constitution. For the first time, people could vote by universal suffrage. All the citizens, men and women, were acknowledged the right to be elected, and that was the first time in Italy, as you can see in the exhibition. Now, as anniversaries are important in order to recall our identity, we thought that that could give us suggestions and could give us new ideas for our history. As President Mattarella said this year on the 2nd of June, we need to fully recover the sense of living together, which is a common attitude in our country. Today's big challenges can be met and managed only by seeking and finding common policies and shared commitments. So the question is, what is history teaching us? Well, let's say that over the past few years, public affairs have been characterized by clash and delegitimization. But this has not always been the case, as you can see in the exhibition. The title of the meeting, You Are Good For Me, and the title of the exhibition, Meeting with the Other, Genius of the Republic, 1946-2016, do show that this has not always been the case. There has been a possible alternative. There has been another way forward when the Republic was born. Chairman Violante, who helped us in this exhibition, used to say that the big asset of the Republic of Italy were all the people that built, managed, urged, and managed by supporting everybody and by using everybody's hope. So all these people were not isolated, but they worked together, they cooperated together, even with people coming from other countries, from different cultures, and from having different ideals. As Don Giussani used to say, democracy is and stems from dialogue and collaboration between human entities, appreciating one another and respecting each other, not because they're self-restrained, but because they are different, meaning that they have no common destiny. And this is written in our history. Republic prevailed on democracy by a bunch of votes, 2 million votes. In the 1948 elections, it was unclear whether the communists or the Christian Democrats would win. There was a Cold War, there were strong clashes, but people having different ideologies built together, sat together, and looked at the other as a necessary ally. And that continued with the Constituent Assembly. That was the result of a mix between the Catholic, socialist, communist, and liberal culture. It was a sort of virtuous compromise that indeed continued. And this is shown in the exhibition. The exhibition shows the strong difficulties that we had in our history, as in economic reconstruction, terrorism, Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall. And oftentimes we got divided, but then we met again. Until the mid-1990s, we've always tried to overcome divisions and to go on together. This is our history, and this is the implementation of what a very important American philosopher says, John Rawls. The veil of ignorance on those who can win a battle can paralyze and be something to be afraid of, or else they can help us understand that we need others. Throughout history, eliminating the enemy has never been a fruitful solution. So there is not an enemy. There is something we have to work with to build together. And this is not only the case for the powerful. Our managerial classes were strong enough to involve the people directly. The people was not part of our history before the Republic. There was just an elite. Whereas our Republic was born out of the citizens who built it. Chairman Violante said the post-war managerial classes knew how to enhance in reconstruction the initiative of many parts of the people that up to that moment were excluded from public affairs. Don Giussani used to say, people are people, and they were a dynamic factor for our public affairs, leading to many different economic, social, cultural, and artistic initiatives contributed to the common good of our country. And you can see that in the exhibition, all these initiatives, from the first motorway to the ENG by Mattei, from the fight against literacy, and you see the old master Manzi that used to teach Italians how to write on television, up to mass education and healthcare for all, an attempt to provide housing to as many people as possible, collective fight against natural catastrophe, industrialization. These were all efforts of different people for a common good. Hence, we can understand what we need to do today. Because from the mid-1990s, paralyzing political debate came by, based on the idea to delegitimize the enemy. We have seen how useless that is in politics. No reform has been possible because the majority tried to impose their ideas against oppositions, and the oppositions tried to block ideas, and that has prevented the common cooperation. Today, we are facing economic uncertainty, demographic collapse, terrorism, selfishness, divisions, fear of the other. Oftentimes, we hear about skepticism, disappointment, dismay, complaint, anger, clash, nihilism, pretending it is something new. But the history of Italy tells us that we can find the way we have lost. The other can facilitate cooperation. In politics and in public affairs, we can state that there's some good in the other. This is not a weakness. The genius of the Republic can be, more than ever, and lies in betting that the other, though different, is an asset and not an obstacle. As Julian Caron wrote, if we don't believe that the other is an asset and not an obstacle to the full expression of ourselves in politics, as in human and social relations, it will be difficult to find the way forward. We need to go back once again and live out of our own ideals in the bodies we're involved in all the different movements, associations, and political and economic entities. We don't have to close ourselves, but we have to meet the others. We have to find what is interesting in others, overcoming ideological barriers. Now, this is the attempt of this meeting and this exhibition that we would like to export everywhere. And therefore, we want to involve all the people as a whole, even the most marginalized people, even those that suffer from crisis, poverty, pain. 2 years ago, we had a meeting on peripheral existences. Managerial classes must once again serve the people. And we want to collaborate in that through our own people. This is our way forward. This is the contribution that we want to give through the meeting to the Italian public affairs. Now, President, let me thank Father Julian Caron, President of Brotherhood of Communion and Liberation, that I would like to invite to the podium for an official address. Dear Mr. President, what should I say? How could I thank you for your remarkable gesture that we mostly appreciate, to be with us today on this very crucial day, for all of us who are here and for all who are listening to us. I think that this exhibition is going to be a very important asset for the whole country. This is why we are looking forward to listening to your kind words, and we will appreciate your words. We know that you are a leading figure for the whole of our community. Thank you. Dear President, and now the floor is yours.
Un saluto.
My warmest greetings to you all. Thank you very much for your welcome, very warm welcome. Thank you very much to the President of the Meeting Foundation and the President of the Foundation for Subsidiarity for the very kind words. And thank you very much to Father Perron for adding his own personal address. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. To all of you young people who are sitting in this room, and to all the volunteers, and you are the people making it possible to hold this meeting. To all of you, I want to say that you are indeed a precious asset for our society. I'm here, first of all, to thank you and to encourage both you and all the young people who are ready to work out of their hope, out of passion, for a good cause. The Italian Republic has just turned 70. As shown by the wonderful exhibition which I have just visited, the Republic is young in itself. The biological times of institutions are much slower and much longer. Though young, the Republic has experienced a lot of crises and has overcome a lot of obstacles. In order to be stronger today, it does need to have a new enthusiasm. It does need to have brotherhood, curiosity for the other, willingness to look at the future. It must be brave enough to meet today's challenges. Obviously, there will be different ideas and different solutions, but young people should be the main characters of modern history. This is the vital energy of a country, and the willingness of young people to participate is the most precious asset we have. Our society is getting old, and the potential of young people could be jeopardized out of that. Now, we need to meet that challenge, threatening our society and other societies. At a time of this remarkable change, it is necessary to give room to the vision promoted by young people. We don't have to be afraid of that. We don't have to be afraid as we were in the past. And we always have to pay the utmost attention not to use old solutions that were taken in the past and that failed in the 20th century. We don't have to build up walls against the others or build walls inside us. On the opposite, we have seen that there's new inequalities, and oftentimes young people are paying the price for that. We need to find a way forward through compromise and through cohesion. We need to realize that we have a common destiny to share. We need to share benefits and responsibilities, but we also need to share difficulties. We need to share rights and duties. We need to share the memory of our people and our look towards the future. As was once written, the sons of the right committed themselves to comply with the rule, as in sharing both successes and dangers. In Italy, we need to abide by these principles. Today, we're living in a selfish era. Now, stating our own identity is important, leads to a growth of consciousness, leads to an increase in rights and opportunities. The primacy of the person, the fact that the person is the most important asset, and the principle of equality between human beings were founded on the central role played by the individual, played by the person in itself. The person in itself is identity, as was recalled by Kant and Martin Luther King. And our freedom has a constraint and is limited there where the freedom of others begins. This is the reason why we have this title for the meeting this year. But the person in itself is not self-sufficient. The person needs the other. The I needs the you. Together, I and you must become us, we, in order to meet challenges and in order to overcome obstacles and achieve expected results. Because we means community. But we means also history. We means democracy. Going beyond the person, going beyond the I means self-realization, not only as individual, but also as a community. It means overcoming the constraints of here and now, because the future can only be built up together. It is impossible sometimes to think beyond the present. Public affairs and politics are often dominated by present times. Shifting from the person to the community, from I to we, enables us to look far away in the future. As Father Giussani used to say, immorality is the experience of a human being who just belongs to itself. Morality stems out of the conscience of people to be with others and awareness of the person's limits. Others can make us better understand the future. Together, the society can be better and can think about a better future. Clearly, we need to do our best under the current conditions, but at the same time, together, we need to design a better future for us, for our children, and for our grandchildren. Without that, politics becomes sterile and misleading. In order not to be self-referential, in order not to be selfish, and in order not to be powerless, it is necessary to give the right role and give the right importance to others, dialogue, putting together friendship and hope. Friendship has always been of the utmost importance in history. This is also why you are good for me. Selfishness does not lead to anything good. Maybe some could make it through, whereas others could fail. Over the past few months, we have seen the explosion of selfishness and what selfishness can lead to if it has no limits. Many women were murdered, and the murders were accomplished by those thinking about the others only as something depending on them. Science provides us with a lot of opportunities in that. Just think about that many people tend to connect on the web only with the people having the same ideas. So you think by doing so that the world just belongs to the people thinking the way we think. And often we feel hatred against the people who think differently. Hence, there's no longer an exchange of ideas. There's no longer an exchange of knowledge. And other people's experiences are not appreciated, nor is the community. If the I does not exploit the opportunity of being we, of being a community, the society is weakened and is less creative. Freedom is indivisible. It does not exist if it is not enjoyed by everybody. The human being cannot exist if it is not shared. We need to understand that we can fully realize ourselves that we can be fully empowered only by having a dialogue with the others. Freedom can be enjoyed if other people can also enjoy that freedom. This is a fact. This is a fact in social life. It is the responsibility of our republic, written in Article 3 of our Constitution, entrusting the republic with the task to provide freedom and equality. Friendship in itself is based on the value of differences. Differences can only enrich us. They push us to look for the truth in others. Don Carron wrote a paragraph on the confusion of the I, and another paragraph on the nostalgia for the you. In those pages, he talked about these two expressions fully depicting the human condition. This is how we have to talk about unity. Unity in our country, unity in Europe, unity in mankind, based on the fundamental rights of people. Unity has not only to do with constitutions, with the legal status, or with an institutional status. First and foremost, unity is a mix between feelings and behaviors. This vision is enshrined in our Constitution, in the first part of our Constitution. And this is one of the aims of our republic, an aim to be pursued over the time while things change, while society changes. Our country is characterized by different things, including divisions, leading to changes in conditions. And this has also been caused by the long economic crisis over the past few years. We need to fully commit in order to have a sounder Italy, in order to make it more competitive, in order to make it play a more important role in European construction. The unity of the country cannot be taken for granted, cannot be conquered once for all. It must be based on providing real job opportunities to the youth. It must be based on equality. It must be based on women's employment. It must be based on work. It must be based on the development of community networks that can consolidate the welfare. The unity of the country implies investing in strategic sectors, implies more efficient justice, integration, and not exclusions of the most marginalized people. We must all take care of the unity of our country, of cohesion in our country. No one can be successful on its own. We are weaker if divided. So we have celebrated the 70 years of the Republic. And the Republic was chosen by the people, and that was a way out of dictatorship, of war, of destruction. The Republic was born out of a referendum, as recalled by President Guarnieri, and it was born out of a democratic election. Those elections led to unity, and we owe that to our fathers and mothers. We owe that to the managerial classes that were democratic and that could understand, despite all difficulties, which are sometimes understated, what united them beyond their clashes. Now, that led to development, rights and opportunities, that reduced social differences, that promoted knowledge, culture, hope. As President Vittadini said, a school which is always characterized by contradictions is of the utmost importance in the life of our country and of any country. In the early 1960s, half of the Italian people didn't even have an elementary school diploma. Only 15% of people had a comprehensive school diploma, and less than 6% went to high school. Only 1 out of 4 children went to comprehensive schools. Over the 1960s, thanks to a common effort that was shared by us all, the Republic did something of the utmost importance: mass education in Italy for everyone and everywhere. And that was a major development in society. That was a positive revolution uniting our society and making it juster. Clearly, there were imbalances and contradictions. However, the development of unity, despite all the difficulties, involved us all. We all became responsible citizens. At last, there was universal suffrage to women 70 years ago, and we achieved all the objectives of peace, solidarity, equality that are all enshrined in the constitutions. The choice of the Republic did have an impact on the identity of our country. Republic helped us in building up the unity of our country, and that also connected to all the historical movements in our country. The Republic enabled us to overcome our troubled history. In the past, there were clashes, divisions, but the 150th anniversary of Italy showed that we have been able to grow in civil society.
In the past, the historic importance of the Republican choice was not underscored enough. And that was for reasons of precautiousness and also wisdom of the politicians at the time that did not want to create further divisions in the country. That was sort of most republic-oriented in the north and monarchy-oriented in the south. So they wanted to focus on the unity and on the building blocks that were the Constitution, so the Common House, as Aldo Moro used to call it, and this year is the centenary of his birth. And the Republic overcame difficult times. For many years, Italy was the only democracy in Southern European countries. It was not easy, not at all, to protect that kind of condition from internal and external pressures, and we should not take it for granted. And also then we had terrorism and massacres in the 70s, but fortunately that terrible moment was overcome thanks to a very strong Republican willingness. It was able to re-enhance the constitutional values. Our history was also supported and characterized by many moments of unity and a commonly shared responsibility that allowed us to leapfrog and make huge progress and avoid regression or major problems. We had clashes and conflicts, but this is natural. We should never forget that unity is decisive in the life of a nation, and sometimes it is important to remember that, to remind ourselves of all that, and to acknowledge those important moments. Unity is the secret of our strength, otherwise we will become weaker. So democracy is the freedom to disagree, to express conflict within the boundaries of mutual respect. But democracy is and should also be patient. So the patience of Italian democracy allowed us to grow, to mature, to encounter other cultures. Democracy can be strengthened by putting it into practice on a daily basis, united as we did. The Republic allowed us to mature, to grow, to enlarge our vision, to enlarge our democratic basis, and also to enrich our national culture. We should always keep that in mind, also and most of all for the future, because democracies need to be always open and to seize the sort of spirits of the times, of the periods, of the epochs we're going through, in order to innovate themselves and bring new blood in their veins, in order to better represent the people, the citizens, and also in order to better to respond to people's needs and society's needs. Today, unity and cohesion of our country are key issues, and this is also strictly related to the unity and cohesion of Europe. So we should never ever consider closing ourselves into our national dimension, because that would mean rejecting the globalized world. And we know that Europe is not flawless. Our Europe is scared, uncertain, slow. It has flaws indeed, and its courage seems to be a bit lost or shattered. And some people consider it in an opportunistic way as something that is useful as a framework for collaboration. Others consider it as a pathway towards further political integration. So there seems to be two opposite ways. Actually, we should rediscover the historic value of the European integration project, and we should relaunch the Union's project. This is the best way for the future, for us, for our young people. We need to pave the way for the future. We should not delude ourselves. Nobody is an island. We cannot be alone. Separation simply increases rivalries and resentment, bitterness, clashes. these may be dangerous elements. Alcide de Gasperi in 1951 talked about the danger of decline being contained in mutual resentment and misknowledge. We need to reaffirm that Europe is the ideal dimension to tackle the number of issues we're faced with, such as the issues relating to immigration and to refugees. Much remains to be done, it is clear, but we need to be human. We need to welcome the other. We need to help those who are in need. And we need also to guarantee the respect of the rule of law. We need to be rigorous when it comes to sort of tackling people that take advantage of other people. We need to cooperate with the countries of origin, the countries of transit. We need to be smart and visionary and clever in order to fight against those who want wars. No country, even the strongest one, can make it alone without Europe. Nobody can guarantee the growth and security and well-being that their citizens want. Of course, there are worrying phenomena. It is something that is, under our eyes. We should never be overwhelmed by anxiety and worries. We should not be prey of fear. We should not let fear undermine our values, our principles, the principles and values thanks to which we are a model for many people in the world. Again, we should never ever ruin the image of Europe as a place for freedom, democracy and rights. And we should never sort of ruin that in order to consider it less attractive and appealing. Migration flaws make us understand once again and even more that we cannot make it alone. Until recent ago, continents were separate, were sort of far from each other, also for logistics reasons, because it was hard to travel around. But today, distances have been zeroed. In real time, you can get to know different countries and cultures and backgrounds. You can travel quickly, safely, even though, as we know, sometimes is not really something accessible to everybody. Some people have to sort of encounter many risks to do so. The world has changed and, well, we need to acknowledge that. The world has changed. It's a fact. Globalization is a fact. The globalization of economies is a fact. There are many people in Africa that are very young. The average age is between 18 and 20 years of age. In Europe, on the contrary, the birth rate is sometimes almost below zero, and continents are sort of osmotic elements. People constantly go back and forth, inevitably, constantly. We cannot stop it. There are liquid movements, so to speak. There are important and intense migration flows, but barriers, walls, boundaries are not a solution. We need to take full responsibility. We need to face problems. We need to guarantee security and respect of principles. And we can be empowered through the others. That means trying to mutually respect the other and create opportunities for richness and enrichment and growth in origin countries, in other countries, in faraway countries. So without that in mind, we will never be able to overcome any problems. But this is the only way also to fight against terrorists that want to scare us, to change our minds and hearts. This is a great challenge for us all, for democratic countries, but also for religions. Interreligious dialogue is a need today, is a historic need. This is a prerequisite to get the peace. This is an act and deed of humbleness. and that makes us rediscover our humanity. This is a very important topic that has many social and political aspects. It has to do with the dialogue between and amongst believers of different faiths and religions, but also the dialogue between and amongst people who believe and people who do not believe. This is the hotbed for a great contribution by Europe. Again, our country can make a great contribution to Europe, to the Mediterranean, to the world. We're going through difficult times, but also at the same time, such challenging times as any time in the history of humankind. Being Italian, feeling to be Italian is a great privilege. And I would like to send a message to the young people especially. Please try to feel the responsibility, but at the same time appreciate the beauty you have in your hands. The talent should never be hidden anywhere, but needs on the contrary to be invested with courage. You are Italy. Italy is made of young people like you. In every nook and cranny of the country, there are young people likely to take up this challenge, to commit themselves. The choice of the Republic many years ago let us grow and mature in a setting of peace in our country. Please make the best of your freedom to build a better future. Please act and don't just stare. The common house is already yours.
Vanno giù.
Sì, o vuole che vengano su?
No, no, lo stesso, va benissimo qua.
Adesso allora sì.
Now, we are going to listen to the voices of 3 university students. We're going to symbolically represent all the young people you addressed, and we really take full advantage of your presence. And once again, we are really grateful to you for your precious and honorable presence. Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you very much again for being here. I am Carlo, and I'm a student of the Catholic University of Milan. I had the chance this summer to travel all through the country from Aosta Valley to Sicily. And I could experience myself the beauty of our country, but also at the same time, I saw to what extent there are differences from a cultural, social, and economic point of view, considering that this is a treasure we should cherish, and maybe we are one of the richest countries in the world in this sense. I would like to ask you, Mr. President, considering that you love our country as a whole, in your opinion, considering all these differences, what is Italy today? What unites us? What do we share? And in your opinion, can Italy still make a contribution to the rest of the world? Well, thank you very much for this beautiful question. It is really a great question. Our country is extremely rich in terms of differences. And these differences result from history, result from several kinds of historic pathways. This diversity is extremely important. It is valuable. It is a treasure. It is an asset. And this goes hand in hand with the very many cultural assets that we have and that make up part of the world heritage. And all that results from this very diverse history. So this is something we share. This is something that keeps evolving over time. 160 years ago, we did not have a united country. Our country was fragmented. When I tell my nephews that women could not vote until 1946, they cannot believe me, and my nieces cannot believe me. But that was the truth. That was a fact. 50, 60 years ago, I was trying to remember that beforehand. I mean, the literacy rate in our country was very low. The educational level was very low, and people were not very much educated. But fortunately, that has changed over time. Then, over the years, some phenomena favored this growth and this evolution, from internal migration flows to the booming of TV broadcasting, for instance. And I'm quite awed. And I can see to what extent things have changed. And somehow this diversity has been a bit diluted over the years. But we should never forget and lose the specificities and singularities and peculiarities of our country. Of course, we should try to improve the flaws, but this backdrop, that is our unity, should never ever be lost or neglected. Unity and the sense of feeling and being united is something that should not lead to a sense of closure, not at all. On the contrary, we should open up to the others because of this diversity. We should never forget that this sense of sharing, this sense of community is something that you should not generate a sense of exclusion, of being jealous of one's own assets. As to the last part of your question, what kind of contribution can Italy make to the world in the future? Well, my answer has to do with what I usually say when I meet people from other countries. Abroad, people really like and appreciate our country. And I think that our country is always very much esteemed and appreciated. So the genius that Italians have always had is really much appreciated. Sometimes it's more appreciated abroad than in our country. And I think that this is a great contribution that we already make. And now, dear young ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you to make this tradition and heritage keep going on. And I think that there is room for improvement and also for getting great achievements, thanks to you. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. My name is Davide, and I'm a student of Catholic University in Milan, and I am a student of modern literature. My question is the following. Our republic stems from the encounter between two from great ideals that got together, Catholic, communist, and social A. But at the same time, we see that there seems to be confused identities. Personally, I see homologation emerging, the homologation Pasolini used to talk about. And this homologation somehow is also characterized by many minorities. I am proud of our Republican history, but I ask myself, what happened to the great ideas we had many years ago, 70 years ago? And what is still so precious and indispensable for our future as a united country? Well, we are going through times of transition, times of change, of historic change. Until some years ago, that was also debated by Fukuyama. There was a book on the end of history, and even before the collapse of the Berlin Wall, that was a very much debated topic. But that book is quite emblematic. Many people thought that with the end of the Soviet Union, well, an era had come to an end. And well, but humans always tended to sort of consider the future as the brightest period ever. And sometimes people always expect a lot from the future. But this always tells us to what extent we are not able to cope with transition and change. It is normal to maybe feel alienated when it comes to change, because when you have to face a change, you have to leave something behind, to change your mindset, to change something in your sort of life. And again, this is normal. This has always happened, but we should never lose sight of key principles such as democracy, freedom, friendship, peace, social growth. These are long-standing, permanent principles. What changes is the way you put them into practice into societies. We need somehow to reset them, because democracy is a sort of ever-living and ever-changing entity. So we need to adapt to change. So there's a fil rouge connecting us with the past and with the future. We need to use these permanent values as a beacon that is a guiding light towards the future. These values should be renovated and adapted to the new cultural, social, and political realities of our countries. I am old. Now it's up to you.
My name is Laura, and I study political science at the Statale University in Milan. Young people are increasingly concerned with daily life, as in finding a job, buying a house, to have a new family, and we try to exploit all the best opportunities coming from the outside. What can the 70 years of the Italian Republic teach us in terms of energy, in terms of taking initiative and to invent something new? This is something that sometimes we tend to miss. It's something that we don't have. Well, what you said is totally true. Young people are faced with enormous difficulties, real difficulties, serious ones. And they are often an obstacle to plan the future for the young people. And these difficulties require answers, because we need to create the conditions to overcome them. However, your question is how you can find the way, how you can find once again the way to go forward. Well, clearly, you need to combine vision and realism. You need to be practical, but also to be brave in order to come up with something new, in order to create a new business, in order to promote social initiatives. You need to be very creative to do that. But as I said, Italy is rich in this context. We have a lot of creativity, but we need to create the conditions to enable young people to exploit their own talent. And this task is incumbent upon institutions. However, you need, first of all, to be brave and to have courage to do that. You said that that was done in the past, that we were creative in the past. Well, while I was visiting the exhibition, history of the past 70 years has been very difficult. There have been many obstacles to overcome. Destruction by the war. There was hatred that remained after the war and after Italy's liberation. There was a Cold War, there were stronger clashes, then there was terrorism. We have always managed to overcome these difficulties. Today we have new ones, and we must be able to recover that spirit based on common commitment and common effort, common willingness to overcome these difficulties. Everything must be combined. The institutions on their side must work in order to create the right conditions for the young people, and on their side, the young people must be creative and must be brave in order to promote these new initiatives. And maybe this is the major problem we have today in our country. Thank you very much, and I wish the best of luck to all of you.